What is up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I want to talk about Turo because on January 1st, the Turo CEO announced plans that they have to take Turo public this year. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the Wall Street Journal article that was published on this topic. I'm also going to be giving you my thoughts on what I think a public Turo would mean for Turo business and Turo hosts. So let's get started. Now, before we dig into Turo and the possibility of Turo going public, I would like to do a quick plug talking about the new course that I just released called the Car Sharing Masterclass. It is available for pre-sale all month long, and all of the course content will be released on February 1st, but you can purchase the course today for 50% off. This course takes you through the entire process from A to Z on how I've been able to create a successful six-figure and semi-passive Turo business, all with the Turo platform. I walk you through the process of buying cars and what to look for in purchasing cars. I walk you through the process of managing your fleet, communicating with guests, accounting, and so much more. It really is an all-inclusive course where it teaches you how to run a Turo fleet and a successful Turo business. All month long, it is just $79. On February 1st, it will be going up to $150. So if you want to get it at a low price, now's your chance. So go check it out. I will leave a link down in the description below. Now, the possibility of Turo going public is no new thing. I mean, it's been a known thing, at least for my entire career with Turo, that one of the reasons why becoming profitable was such an important thing for Turo as a whole was not only to just keep the business open, but also because they wanted to go public with the company. And so the profitability aspect and really showing a profit on P&Ls and balance sheets was something that was super, super important, more so than it's ever been in the past. So to hear that Andre, the CEO, has come out and said that he wants to make the company public, it really comes as no surprise to me. But I do think that there is a lot of implications that could come along with that. But first, let's look at this Wall Street Journal article that was just published on this topic. So the article starts off by saying that at the beginning of the pandemic, at the end of March, Turo was not looking good and they had to lay off 1/3 of their 330-person workforce. The next month, they cut marketing to zero, and he studied every expense to try to find savings and shore up 3 years of cash. Now, from the host perspective, and you know, I'm a power host, I'm an all-star host, so whenever it comes to these meetings that Turo holds once a year, I was invited to this meeting. I've had a lot of communications with Turo Corporate. I have a representative that I talk with at Turo Corporate that can answer any questions I have on kind of the health of the company. And so I was staying in fairly, I would say, consistent contact with Turo, especially during the beginning of the pandemic, from that like end of March to really kind of July timeframe. And I was aware that this stuff was going on whenever it was happening. Like I kind of agreed with the fact that, you know, you should cut staff, you should cut marketing costs, you really should kind of hunker down and cut costs wherever you can. But I think that where it was frustrating with Turo was that they really kind of screwed over hosts in doing that. It says here, like in the next paragraph of this article, Turo's financial turnaround suggests that the moves are working. The peer-to-peer car sharing marketplace reported its first ever profitable quarter this year, according to the results shared with the Wall Street Journal. The CEO forecasts achieving a full year profitability in the year of 2022. You know, I think that there are really two reasons as to why this is the case. I think that there's two reasons as to why Turo was able to become profitable this year. Number one, and a hugely significant reason, is coronavirus and COVID-19. Because people weren't able to, and those who were able to didn't want to travel on an airplane. That's why platforms like RV Share, like Outdoorsy, like Turo have all exploded this year, because the idea of sitting on an airplane with hundreds of other people or even 50 other people is significantly less appealing than going out and renting a car or renting an RV or renting a camper van. So because of that, these kind of non-traditional or more non-traditional travel methods have really exploded this year. But the second reason why I think that Turo has finally become profitable for its first quarter is because of these cost-saving measures, some of which came at the expense of the host. Now, for the most part, I agree with the majority of Turo's cost-saving measures. I don't hate the deductible. I don't hate the mileage claims. I don't hate the kind of reimbursement measures that they put into place. I don't hate any single one of these methods, any single one of these changes. My problem, though, is that they did all of this at once, and they did all of it during a pandemic that was not only affecting Turo as the platform, but it was significantly affecting the hosts as well. So I would say that like my feelings on Turo and how they've been able to become profitable this year, or at least have a profitable quarter this year, it is very conflicted, because I'm very glad to hear that Turo seems to be doing well. They increased their revenue by 7% this year, which is great. But on the flip side, I think that their moves in 2020 really went to show me, and I think it went to show a lot of hosts as well, that when it comes to the Turo platform, they are not your friends. They're not your teammates. They're not your team members. They are simply a tool. And when it comes to being successful with that tool, you are on your own. And I think that Turo this year, more than ever before, really sent that message loud and clear by making all of these significant changes that helped the platform, but really hurt hosts in the long run. It then goes on to just say that Turo said it expects to finish 2020 with $153 million in revenue, a record for the 10-year-old San Francisco-based company. It also sees revenue for the second half of the year at $92.3 million, up 7% from the year earlier period. The increase reflects slower growth than in recent years when revenue climbed more than 60%, but any gain is notable amid the pandemic. So what this tells me here is that even though revenue did increase in 2020, it wasn't so much the revenue increase that helped Turo as a platform in 2020. It really was the expenses decreasing in 2020, letting go some of their staff and most likely not hiring a number of them back, cutting down expenses with reimbursements, like making hosts pay a deductible, like limiting the amount that you can charge in mileage. A number of these policies that kind of negatively affected hosts ultimately resulted in the profitability of Turo 1 out of these 4 quarters in 2020. It also says here that Turo did receive PPP funds. It doesn't specifically say they received idle funds, but I would assume that they did receive idle funds as well. It says Turo received about $6 million in disaster loans. It also says that the money from the Paycheck Protection Program allowed him to hire back about half of the 110 people he laid off and reverse the roughly 25% pay cut he gave all employees, including himself. And then kind of the last part of the article I want to touch on is it says that they plan to publicly list shares of Turo this year, buoyed by the company's success and following the strong performance of many tech initial public offerings in 2020. He is undecided whether he will pursue a traditional IPO and is open to alternatives, such as going public through a merger with a blank check corporation. Now, I think that this is incredibly interesting because I ultimately think that this type of thing was coming. It was inevitable in the case of Turo. I ultimately feel as though there are 2 things that are going to happen. He'll either do an IPO, like he was mentioning in the article, or I could even see Turo being acquired by a larger company. I mean, I don't necessarily see this exact scenario playing out, but I don't think it's out of the question to say, what if a platform like an insurance company, or what if a platform like Airbnb was to acquire Turo? And I think that could happen, though I don't necessarily think Airbnb specifically would be interested in acquiring Turo, but I could see a larger peer-to-peer marketplace platform doing some sort of merger with Turo. Ultimately, though, I think it will be really interesting to see what an IPO would look like for Turo, because I think that Turo's business model is very unique. I don't think it's similar to really any other peer-to-peer sharing platform out there. It's not like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash. It's not like Airbnb. And the reason is because Turo has 2 distinct business models, and you can kind of describe Turo one of 2 ways. Number one is there a peer-to-peer car sharing marketplace or a peer-to-peer car sharing platform where they facilitate the transactions of peers renting their cars to other peers. But the second business description that I think is almost more accurate is an insurance company. And I would be very interested to see where Turo's revenue comes from. Does it come from, the transactions of people renting cars from other people? Or does it come from selling insurance to those people? And I don't know which one of these questions is correct because I've never looked at their P&Ls, I've never looked at their financials, but I would probably bet that a huge chunk of their money, if not the majority of their income, comes from the insurance aspect of Turo, which I think makes the entire situation of going public a bit dicey. Ultimately, though, what I think that this could mean for hosts is not really a whole lot. I think that Turo could continue to cut some of the benefits that we see as hosts in an effort to inflate their books for a public offering. I definitely think that that could happen. And analyzing companies that have gone public in the past, they typically put a huge emphasis on profitability and showing profitability before going public. So I definitely could see that being the case. Turo getting laser focused on decreasing spending, decreasing expenses, and then increasing profit as a result. I think that that is almost inevitable if they're looking at going public. Additionally, I think that long term, them going public could be a good thing for hosts as well. I mean, Turo has already started doing things that are in the best interest of Turo rather than in the best interest of the host. And I think if Turo goes public, that just kind of solidifies the platform. I think that it solidifies the business model, and there's no longer that risk of Turo going out of business, which was something that's been in the back of my head for, a couple of years now, is always the question of what happens if Turo goes under. And the fact is, if Turo goes public, if they're a publicly traded company, the chances of them going under at least anytime soon is very unlikely. And lastly is the question of, will Turo offer hosts pre-IPO shares of the company? And I really hope that they do. I mean, I would definitely invest in pre-IPO shares. I'd probably invest in the company even once it goes public, even if I don't get pre-IPO shares. But I would love for them to see them do something similar to what Airbnb did. And I think that they should. Now, Brian Chesky, the CEO and founder of Airbnb, the same one who was in charge and made the decision to offer Airbnb hosts IPO or pre-IPO shares, he, from what I've heard, is a pretty nice guy, and he cares a lot about Airbnb. He cares a lot about the host experience. And unfortunately, Turo CEO does not have that same reputation. I've never met either one of these people, but I know of people that have met both. And Brian Chesky has I think a better reputation than Andre, the CEO of Turo. So if we're going based off of personality, if we're going based off of the generosity that a person appears to be, I would say that the Turo CEO, Andre, probably has a less likely of a chance of offering pre-IPO shares to hosts. But I also think that in an effort to, provide unity, to make everybody seem like they're part of the Turo team, I certainly think that Turo should offer pre-IPO shares. I think that they absolutely should do it. The question is, will they do it? And if they do it, I will certainly be buying pre-IPO shares. Honestly, though, you guys, I think that it will be really interesting to see how a IPO of Turo will play out in the coming year. I think that it is something that will be a positive move for Turo, because ultimately Turo has already made these cost-saving measures that have affected hosts. And I think that if they go public, that will ultimately be a good thing for Turo and a good thing for Turo hosts. With that being said, if you guys are interested in learning how to get involved with Turo, how to start a side hustle with Turo, or how I got started with Turo and ultimately turned it into a semi-passive income stream, then check out my car sharing masterclass. But in the meantime, if you have any comments, if you have anything to add, if you have any questions, then make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.